This is a snakeskin jacket, and to him it represents his belief in being himself and living with personal freedom. That idea of individuality has followed Nicolas Cage throughout his entire life, both in his career and in the way he lived. Not long ago, news came out that Nicolas Cage had been evicted from another home. Sadly, this was not the first time it had happened. At one point, the Oscar-winning actor owned around 15 luxurious mansions with a combined value of nearly $150 million. Today, almost all of that wealth and property is gone. One of the most shocking moments came in 2009 when his $6.3 million estate in Bel Air was foreclosed. At that time, records showed that he owed around $18 million on that single property alone. Many people assumed his financial problems were simply the result of reckless spending, but court documents later revealed something much deeper and more painful. The collapse of his fortune was not just about money. It involved betrayal by someone he trusted completely. The person who played a major role in destroying his financial empire was not a stranger or an outsider. It was someone who had full access to his life, his money, and his trust. When people learned the truth about who was really responsible, it left many stunned. Nicolas Cage was born on January 7, 1964, in Long Beach, California. His birth name was Nicolas Kim Coppola. From the beginning, his life was surrounded by creativity and art. His father, August Coppola, was deeply in love with literature and built his entire life around books, teaching, and writing. His mother, Joy Vogelsang, was a dancer and choreographer who moved through life with artistic grace. Nicolas was the youngest of 3 brothers, and as a quiet child, he often observed the intense creative energy flowing around him. Creativity was not limited to his parents. He was born into the famous Coppola family, a name that already carried weight in Hollywood. His uncle, Francis Ford Coppola, was becoming one of the most respected filmmakers in cinema history, while his aunt, Talia Shire, was captivating audiences on screen. Stories, films, and artistic discussions were part of everyday life. Without realizing it, Nicolas slowly absorbed all of it. His childhood took a painful turn when he was 6 years old and his parents divorced. The warm and lively home he once knew suddenly broke apart. He moved mostly with his mother to San Francisco, and those years were difficult. His mother struggled with bipolar disorder, and young Nicolas witnessed her moving in and out of severe emotional episodes. These experiences quietly shaped him. They taught him empathy, sadness, fear, and understanding at an early age. Even though he came from a well-known family, his life was far from stable. That mix of privilege and pain planted something deep inside him, something that later allowed him to reach emotional depths few actors could. Alongside the hardship, another passion began to grow. Around the age of 8, Nicolas started copying actors he admired. James Dean became one of his biggest inspirations. He studied how Dean walked, spoke, and expressed emotion. Nicolas would perform small skits at family gatherings, especially at the Coppola home in Napa Valley, where creativity seemed to fill every room. Acting made him feel alive, even if his audience was only family members sitting around a dinner table. By the time he was 9, he joined a small local theater group and played a pirate in a school play. It was a tiny role, but it gave him a powerful sense of direction. Life at home remained unpredictable. Money was often tight, and his mother's condition continued to affect the family. Later, he attended Beverly Hills High School, expecting something exciting and glamorous. Instead, he felt isolated and was bullied. He didn't fit in and eventually dropped out. To earn small amounts of money, he performed on the streets and in Hollywood alleys, doing whatever he could to survive while holding on to his dream. When he was 15, his mother was institutionalized, and Nicolas moved to Los Angeles to live with his father. The change was painful, but it opened new doors. He became involved in the punk rock scene, using music and rebellion as an outlet for his emotions. Around this time, he became obsessed with Elvis Presley. He dyed his hair blonde like Elvis and began to carry that influence in his voice, posture, and attitude. These choices were his way of building an identity that felt strong and fearless. At 16, his world grew even more intense. He met Crispin Glover at underground film screenings, and the two became close friends, pushing each other creatively. Nicolas became deeply committed to method acting, even before landing major roles. To understand homelessness for a role he imagined, he slept in phone booths and exposed himself to hunger and exhaustion. He wanted truth, no matter how uncomfortable. That desire to go deeper than others would become one of his defining traits. When he was 17, he auditioned for Rumble Fish, directed by his uncle Francis Ford Coppola, and landed a small role as a drug dealer. Even though it was a family connection, Nicolas desperately wanted to succeed on his own. He decided to drop the Coppola name and reinvent himself as Nicolas Cage. The name was inspired by avant-garde composer John Cage and the Marvel superhero Luke Cage. To him, the name represented freedom and independence. Around this time, he also struggled with dyslexia, which made reading scripts difficult. Instead of letting it stop him, he memorized lines by listening and feeling the rhythm of dialogue. This challenge pushed him to improvise, often surprising directors. What others saw as a weakness slowly became part of his unique style. To pay for acting classes at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, he took odd jobs like delivering pizza. He often clashed with teachers who felt his style was too intense. They wanted restraint, but he wanted raw emotion. That tension helped shape the fearless approach he later brought to the screen. During these years, he was also in a passionate relationship with Christina Fulton. Their emotional ups and downs fed into his performances, turning real-life pain into powerful acting. Every struggle added another layer to his craft, shaping him into the artist he was becoming. His real entry into Hollywood came at 18 when he appeared briefly in Fast Times at Ridgemont High in 1982. His role was small and easy to miss, but the director liked his natural timing enough to keep him in the film. While it didn't make him famous, it opened doors. In 1983, he landed his first major speaking role in Valley Girl, playing Randy, a rebellious musician. He improvised much of his dialogue, giving the film a fresh energy. The movie became a success, and audiences remembered him. That same year, he returned to Rumble Fish in a larger role and deliberately pushed himself to extremes to escape the label of being just a famous director's nephew. Critics noticed his intensity and unpredictability. In the years that followed, Nicolas Cage continued taking risks. He brought a punk attitude to period films, clashed with expectations, and even broke his jaw during the filming of Birdie after biting into a raw chicken for a scene. Instead of stepping back, he used the pain to deepen his performance. His dedication became legendary. He turned down safer roles to take smaller, riskier parts that allowed him to explore strange and complex characters. He wasn't interested in comfort or safety. He was chasing truth. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, his performances became even bolder. In Moonstruck, he delivered one of his most memorable roles, blending heartbreak, humor, and raw emotion. The performance brought him major award attention. Soon after, he shocked audiences again in Vampire's Kiss, where his wild, unhinged performance confused some viewers and fascinated others. Over time, it became a cult classic, praised for its fearless commitment. Cage continued pushing limits, whether by flying real helicopters in Firebirds, winning the top prize at Cannes for Wild at Heart, or jumping out of a plane himself in Honeymoon in Vegas. Each role showed his refusal to play it safe. Then, in 1995, everything changed with leaving Las Vegas. He lost significant weight, studied addiction closely, and delivered a performance so real and painful that it earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor. That role transformed how people saw him. He was no longer just eccentric or wild. He was recognized as one of the most powerful actors of his generation. Despite his success, the same fearlessness that drove his career also fueled his financial downfall. He spent lavishly, trusted the wrong people, and failed to keep control over his finances. Over time, his fortune slipped away, piece by piece. Behind the headlines about mansions and evictions was a story of trust broken and lessons learned too late. Yet even after losing so much, Nicolas Cage never stopped being himself. Just like that snakeskin jacket, his life has always been about individuality, risk, and freedom, no matter the cost. The jackpot in the story was $4 million, and the movie was filmed on 16mm film to give it a warm and natural feeling. That choice worked perfectly. The film became a surprise hit because Nicolas Cage played his role with honesty, kindness, and charm. It was a small and simple story, but it had a big heart, and audiences connected with it deeply. For many people, it showed a softer and more human side of Cage that they had not fully seen before. However, his journey was never smooth for long. Not every project went peacefully, and not every experience was positive. When he worked on Kiss of Death in 1995, things became tense behind the scenes. He clashed with director Barbet Schroeder over changes to the script. The arguments affected the mood on set, and that tension spilled directly into his performance. Cage began improvising threats and pushing scenes further than planned. Some moments nearly fell apart completely. While the movie was criticized for being too violent, it also revealed how far Cage was willing to go to make emotions feel real, sharp, and dangerous. He never wanted his performances to feel safe or dull. Around that same time, he entered one of the strangest chapters of his life. In 1997, he bought what he believed was a Tyrannosaurus Rex skull for $276,000, outbidding Leonardo DiCaprio in the process. Later, it was discovered that the fossil had been illegally taken from Mongolia. Once the truth came out, Cage was forced to return it. This incident pulled him into serious trouble with the IRS and drew attention to his finances. He eventually had to settle around $14 million in unpaid taxes and give up rare items and valuable properties. The story became one of the strangest celebrity headlines of the decade and quietly hinted at the financial disaster that would later explode into public view. At the same time, his career was reaching incredible heights. In 1996, at the age of 32, he starred in The Rock as Stanley Goodspeed. One of the most intense scenes in the movie involved real tear gas canisters. The choking, shaking, and exhaustion audiences saw were not special effects. They were real physical reactions. His character's symptoms matched the real science behind VX nerve gas, which can cause paralysis and breathing failure within seconds. Even the moment when he injects an atropine syringe into his chest followed real medical procedure. The filmmakers wanted realism, and Cage committed fully, pushing his body to its limits. In 1997, at age 33, he starred in Con Air and became Cameron Poe, a former soldier trapped on a prison transport plane filled with dangerous criminals. The filming conditions were brutal. Scenes were shot in extreme heat in Nevada, where temperatures climbed above 100 degrees. Dust storms hit the Wendover airfield in Utah while the cast worked long days outdoors. Despite the harsh conditions, the movie became a massive success, earning $224 million worldwide. One of the most talked-about moments was the final scene filmed during the real demolition of the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. The mix of real destruction and movie action made the ending unforgettable. That same year, he also starred in Face Off alongside John Travolta. The story required them to literally swap faces, pushing special effects teams to new limits. They created silicone face molds with tiny details like pores and individual hairs. The molds even moved slightly so they looked alive. Cage had to wear a mold of his own face, which he described as a surreal and disorienting experience. The realism allowed both actors to mimic each other so convincingly that the film is still mentioned today when people talk about groundbreaking visual effects and bold performances. By 1998, Cage shifted gears and starred in City of Angels as Seth, a quiet and gentle angel who falls in love with a human woman. The role required emotional restraint instead of explosive energy. Scenes involving the loss of wings demanded days of wire work and deep emotional focus. Cage poured himself into the role, and co-star Meg Ryan later said he brought genuine feeling into every scene. The movie was not made to chase awards, but many viewers who connected with it still hold it close to their hearts years later. His hunger for danger and realism did not fade. While the famous bee scene later became a meme during The Wicker Man in 2006, his appetite for physical risk had already been present for years. In Gone in 60 Seconds in 2000, he personally wrecked 12 cars during filming. He helped plan and stage a massive convoy of 50 classic cars racing through downtown Los Angeles. He avoided using stunt doubles whenever possible. The crash scenes took days to film, and Cage was heavily involved in the preparation. At that point, he was one of the biggest stars in the world. There were years when he earned more than $40 million annually. Studios chased him, and it felt like money had no limits. But slowly, everything began to crack. By 2009, the IRS filed tax liens worth around $14 million against him. Blame spread in every direction. Cage claimed his business manager, Samuel Levin, pushed him into risky real estate investments and ignored financial warnings. Court papers later stated that Cage lost more than $150 million under Levin's management, including over $6 million in unpaid property taxes. When everything finally collapsed, Cage was forced to sell nearly everything he owned. Many called it one of the biggest tax disasters in Hollywood history. For a long time, it seemed like every headline focused on his downfall. Then came the homes. In 2009, his $6.3 million Bel Air mansion was foreclosed. The estate covered nearly 12,000 square feet and had once been listed for $35 million. At auction, it struggled to attract interest and eventually sold for around $10.5 million. It was only one piece of a much larger collapse. At his peak, Cage owned 15 luxurious properties around the world, including castles in Europe, private islands, and homes filled with art, jewelry, and rare collectibles. Together, they were worth around $150 million. After the financial crash of 2008, he watched them disappear one by one, often at massive losses. His Bel Air mansion alone had 6 loans attached to it, totaling $18 million. Realtors later described the home as having a chaotic, frat house feel, which felt like a final insult as his real estate empire crumbled. The problems did not stop there. In 2009, a producer sued Cage for $36.7 million, claiming the idea for National Treasure had been stolen. At the same time, Cage was being pressured to repay over $5 million linked to failed real estate deals. In the middle of all this chaos, he made another unusual decision by purchasing a $7.7 million pyramid-shaped tomb for himself in New Orleans. The lawsuit was eventually settled quietly, but rumors never fully disappeared. The tomb and the legal battles became symbols of a period defined by ambition, excess, and confusion. His personal life was also falling apart. His marriage to Alice Kim, which began in 2004, was under extreme strain by 2009. Financial pressure and constant stress drove them apart. Desperate for cash, Cage sold his famous comic book collection. Action Comics #1 was sold for $2.16 million, becoming the first comic book ever to cross the $2 million mark. He also sold classic cars and other treasured possessions. Although the divorce did not happen until 2016, the damage began during those difficult years. The comic book sale remains one of the most famous celebrity auctions ever. His career suffered as well. Bangkok Dangerous was released in 2008 with a budget of $45 million but earned only $15.3 million in the United States. Although it opened at #1, the opening weekend was so weak that it became the lowest-grossing #1 debut since 2003. After marketing costs, the film resulted in a massive loss. Public confidence in Cage's box office power began to fade. In 2011, things worsened when he was arrested in New Orleans after a public argument with Alice Kim. Witnesses said he was shouting and hitting parked cars. He was charged with domestic abuse and disturbing the peace, though the charges were later dropped. Even so, the incident added fuel to public jokes and criticism. By that point, he was already known for unusual choices in his personal life. He once bought a pet octopus for $150,000 and named it Cool. He said it helped him manage stress and think creatively. His home also housed cobras, sharks, and even a 2-headed snake. The octopus became a symbol of a chaotic period where creativity and excess collided. Then, slowly, a shift began. In 2018, at age 54, he starred in Mandy, a dark and dreamlike film filled with violence and emotion. It premiered at Sundance and made only a few $1 million in theaters, but it exploded online. Clips of Cage screaming, drinking, and losing himself went viral. People called it his rebirth. Suddenly, critics were paying attention again, and award conversations returned. Mandy marked him as a cult icon and opened the door to a new phase of his career. Even before that, he had shown a willingness to embrace absurdity. In Kick-Ass, he played Big Daddy with over-the-top energy inspired by old superhero shows. The film made nearly $100 million worldwide and became a fan favorite. In Drive Angry, he returned to loud action, performing stunts with real classic cars and delivering pure intensity. Fans loved the reckless energy. At the same time, family struggles weighed heavily on him. His son Weston faced addiction, legal trouble, and financial collapse. Court records showed Cage repeatedly helped him, paying bail and offering support. Some criticized him for it, others respected his loyalty. It revealed how complicated and painful family bonds can be. He kept working non-stop. In 2013, he voiced Grug in The Croods, a massive animated hit that earned nearly $600 million worldwide. It helped stabilize his public image. Over the years, he appeared in more than 40 films, proving he would not give up. Strange rumors continued to follow him, including claims that he had fathered dozens of children through anonymous donations. Whether true or not, the stories added to his myth. Then came Pig in 2021. At 57, he played a quiet man searching for his lost truffle pig. There was no action, no shouting, just emotion. Critics praised it as one of his best performances in decades. In 2022, he played a fictional version of himself in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, openly joking about his career, debt, and fame. Audiences loved the honesty. He continued with bold choices, playing Dracula in Renfield and delivering another wild performance. By 2025, he had appeared in over 125 films. His net worth had fallen dramatically but slowly recovered to an estimated $25 to $40 million. His life became a story of resilience, chaos, loss, and survival. His marriages, divorces, strange purchases, and fearless performances all became part of a legend that refuses to fade.